Next on Unsolved Mysteries. In a Maryland suburb, a young man is found hanging from a tree. His death was ruled a suicide. But why was he wearing someone else's clothes? In 1968, a young photographer was taking pictures at the exact moment Senator Robert Kennedy was shot. Those pictures may hold the key to what happened that night, but they've disappeared. A notorious murder case from the distant past still brings out the ghost of the beautiful victim. It's late Halloween night. An attractive young woman heads home after a party and is never seen again. Our viewers have helped solve hundreds of cases just like these. Perhaps you can help too. I'm Dennis Farina, and this is Unsolved Mysteries. Silver Spring, Maryland. The 911 call comes in just before 2 p.m. 19-year-old Keith Warren is dead. Keith was a well-liked, dependable young man who was just 1 month away from starting college. That will never happen now. Keith was found in a wooded area behind a townhouse where he lived with his mother and sister. He was hanging by the neck from a small tree that was bent double with his weight. The elaborate arrangement of the hanging rope would raise questions later. The cord was anchored around the base of a large tree. It extended some 25 feet to a small sapling. It circled the sapling's trunk and then arched up through a fork several feet off the ground. After a very brief visual inspection, the medical examiner determined that Keith committed suicide. No autopsy was ordered, and the body was sent to a funeral home for embalming. Surprisingly, several hours passed before Keith's mother was told of her son's death.
I didn't realize at the time that Keith's body was not at a morgue. There'd been no investigation, and his body had been discovered maybe 5 or 6 hours earlier. I didn't know at the time the officer had chosen a funeral home.
A few days later, Mary Cooey received her son's personal effects, some audio tapes, a jacket, and his trademark brown boots.
I saw the boots, and that's when I knew it was all over. The boots that was Keith in. That was it.
At first, Mary had accepted that her son committed suicide. But then she began to have doubts. The reason? Well, Mary heard that suspicious characters had been looking for Keith just a week before he died.
Hey, yo, dude. Seen Keith Warren around?
It was mainly black males that were in the car.
Some friends looking for him? Seen him around?
Keith did not associate much with black males. Most of his friends were white males. So I thought that was pretty strange. And after I told them that I hadn't seen Keith, they left.
They weren't from the neighborhood or our school area, so I kind of figured, why would they be looking for Keith? But no one had an answer for me.
Several days later, Rodney Kendall had another odd encounter. This time with a high school acquaintance of Keith named Mark Finley.
Rodney, have you seen Keith?
Nah, man, what's up?
I need to find him.
He seemed pretty urgent. I thought it was pretty strange because he acted like he needed to find Keith very quickly. I told him I didn't know where Keith was, and he left.
Some weeks after Keith's death, his mother asked Rodney to show her the tree where Keith's body was found.
When we got there, I looked around and Couldn't find the tree. The tree had been cut down. There was just the stump left.
I called the police, and they're very rude. We cut it down. Now, what do you want us to do about it?
Police said they needed to cut the tree down so they could hold it as evidence. But this seems strange, since they had already closed the case. Keith's mother no longer trusted what the police said. She launched a letter-writing campaign aimed at state and federal officials. But for 6 long years, Mary Cooey hit a stone wall everywhere she turned. Then, on Keith's birthday, the day he would have turned 25, Mary found a plain manila envelope at her doorstep.
Oh, Sherry! Oh my God! What's wrong? What?
And Sherry came up, and she saw the pictures scattered, and she picked them up. And then she says, "Oh my God, this is Keith."
There were 5 pictures in all. Each showed a different view of Keith hanging by his neck. Mary forced herself to look, and in the process, found a glaring discrepancy.
His clothing, it didn't fit him. That's when we started to realize he was wearing somebody else's clothing. But the real eye catcher was that he was wearing white sneakers.
And those white tennis shoes, he did not own. He did not own a pair of white tennis shoes.
The only items of clothing that police returned to the family were Keith's jacket and brown boots. Neither was shown in the photographs, although authorities said that they had found them near Keith's body.
I didn't feel that the police were my friends at all. I was advised to go to a local investigator and find out the source of the photos.
Mary hired private detective Joe Alercia.
The police department conceded that there were copies of original police photos, but they had no idea where they came from. None whatsoever. They were questioned numerous times.
He noticed several leaves on the back of Keith's shirt. This suggested Keith had been lying on the ground and was hoisted into a hanging position by someone else. Alercio says that his theory is supported by the complex path of the rope found at the scene.
The perpetrators noticed that the tree was small and wouldn't hold the body, therefore they needed some security by tying around a big tree here.
No one seems to know whose clothing Keith Warren is wearing in those photographs, and whether or not Keith Warren was hanged or whether or not he committed suicide.
Finally, Keith's family had his body exhumed for an autopsy, and the results were shocking.
I believe that Keith Warren's death, being listed as suicide, is medically not supportable.
Tests on Keith's body showed deadly levels of several powerful chemicals that are usually found in glue and solvents. The levels found in Keith's body were enough to kill him.
These substances can get in there by inhalation, or they could actually be taken in by mouth.
Maryland's chief medical examiner reviewed the report and claimed the toxic chemicals were part of the embalming process. Dr. Mahalakas disagrees.
The substances found in Keith Warren's body could not have been introduced by the embalming fluid because the embalmer in his report never mentioned using any of those substances. Secondly, the distribution of the key substance trichloroethane is more consistent with inhalation. And third, there were found 2 additional substances which are totally unrelated to any embalming solution.
But if the chemicals were not in the embalming fluid, where did they come from?
He could have been at a party where there's some drugs involved and he accidentally killed himself, and they were afraid, and then they decided to take and hang him, make it look like a suicide. Or he could have been attacked from the back, and that particular chemical is so potent that one chemist said that he was dead before he hit the ground.
He couldn't have done this and placed himself on the tree. That's the bottom line. He could not have taken these chemicals and then hung himself.
In a final disturbing twist, the one person who might know what happened to Keith also turned up dead under suspicious circumstances. Mark Finley was one of those who came looking for Keith a few days before he died.
I need to find him.
6 years later, when Mary received the photographs, a note attached to one said, "Don't worry, Mark Finley will be next."
Mark called my residence, left a message on my answer machine. "Miss Warren, this is Mark Finley. I got your message, and I will be by to see you. I do remember the specific words, but I need to unload."
Just 1 month later, Mark Finley was dead. According to police, Finley died accidentally when he struck a curb and was thrown from his bike.
The original ambulance crew said the damage to Mr. Finley didn't fit the accident itself. The damage in his face, it looked like somebody either hit him with a car or he was waiting for him with a baseball bat and hit him with a baseball bat. Mark Finley made a statement at a party saying that Keith didn't kill himself, I helped hang him in the tree. It just seemed kind of strange that he happened to expire when he had made that statement.
When asked about this case, the authorities have a standard answer. This case is closed.
We're still being stonewalled, and we're still being fought, and that's incredible. I can't understand that. What is it that the system does not want me to know about my child's life or death?
The Warren family is offering a $5,000 reward for information about this case. If you have any information about what happened to Keith Warren, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, when Bobby Kennedy was shot in 1968, this man was there, taking pictures. But those pictures have mysteriously disappeared. Why? Los Angeles, California.
I would hope now.
June 5th, 1968. Senator Robert F. Kennedy addresses a room full of supporters celebrating his victory in the California presidential primary.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there.
Within 20 minutes, the senator is fatally wounded in the hotel kitchen pantry. The accused assassin is a young Palestinian named Sirhan Sirhan. Since the day of the assassination, people have questioned whether Sirhan acted alone or whether a second gunman was involved. The debate has been fueled by the belief that there was no visual record, not one photograph of the precise moment the senator was gunned down. But now, that assumption has been challenged.
There is an audio recording from a radio reporter, and there are my black and white photographs, and that's it.
This could be a photograph of Scott Enyart, taken in the pantry of the Ambassador Hotel. Scott claims at the instant Senator Kennedy was shot, he was there, taking pictures. But where are those photos? Scott says that he shot 3 rolls of film that night. The authorities, however, deny that 2 of those rolls ever existed. When Senator Kennedy gave his victory speech, 15-year-old Scott Enyart was just a few feet from the stage, shooting photographs for his high school newspaper. These are some of Scott's pictures. He took his first roll of film before Kennedy mounted the podium. Scott says he loaded a second roll just as the senator began to speak.
Very brief little talk.
As the speech concluded, Scott joined the crowd that followed Kennedy from the stage. After leaving the ballroom, Senator Kennedy headed down a corridor which led to the pantry. There, he stopped to shake hands with kitchen workers.
When he stopped, I was about 10, 12 feet behind him. There was an open wedge which had been made by the two people on either side of him, so I had a clear view of him. It's at this point that I brought my camera up and started taking pictures.
Then suddenly, gunshots.
Now, I was behind Robert F. Kennedy. Sirhan was in front of Kennedy, so I did not see Sirhan. All I saw was Kennedy twist and fall. I moved back and jumped up on a steam table, and I took some pictures over where the dog pile on Sirhan was taking place. His hand was sticking out with the gun in it, but I couldn't really see what was taking place there because so many people had crowded in at that point.
Is there a doctor in the house? Everybody, please stay back. Please.
A few minutes later, Scott went back to the ballroom, where the large crowd was reacting with shock and horror. At that time, Scott says he loaded and clicked off his third roll of film.
I noticed two men in suits. They were looking at me rather strangely, and I moved a few steps, and they moved a few steps. Not knowing who's a terrorist, who's an assassin, and who's the police, I took off.
Wait, hold on. Okay. Oh, what's the camera?
They went through my pockets and took all 3 rolls of the film. They took the camera, of course. And it's at that point I realized these are detectives and I'm with the good guys.
At around 3 a.m., Scott was taken to a police station in downtown Los Angeles.
Well, I'm not exactly sure. Where were you, Scott? Okay, I was in the embassy room.
Scott was questioned for about 20 minutes. This is an actual recording of the interrogation.
Pictures. So there was a table here about 3.5 feet tall, I'd say. So I got up on it, so I was above everyone. And then the shots started to be fired, and I took pictures and kept taking pictures.
While the shots were being fired?
While the shots were being fired.
Scott Enyart had become a small part of history.
I can only tell by the pictures.
10 months later, Sirhan was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Robert Kennedy. The court ordered that all files from the case, including Scott's photographs, be sealed for 20 years. In 1988, he asked for his confiscated pictures to be returned. He was told that they were, quote, destroyed by the LAPD in August 1968. Scott filed a lawsuit against the police.
Top LAPD detectives were assigned to work with our attorneys in preparation for this lawsuit. Naturally, if we could find what Scott was looking for, we thought that that would make the lawsuit go away.
Incredibly, 8 years later, the pictures were found. The city attorneys presented Scott with a proof sheet made from those negatives. Scott became suspicious. The proof showed only 1 roll of film. The film stock was Ilford ASA 125. Scott claims he shot 3 rolls of film that were Tri-X ASA 400, manufactured by Kodak.
Basically, what I believe the police did was they took roll number 2, which showed the speech, and they used part of that in this proof sheet, and then they used roll number 3, which was once I returned to the ballroom afterward, where you see the aftermath and some of the victims and things, and they just put them together as a proof sheet and expected that they could pass that off as being all the film that I shot.
That roll is a continuous roll of film, shows pictures before Mr. Kennedy speaks, pictures of Robert F. Kennedy speaking to the audience, and then pictures of the aftermath of the shooting. There are no photographs in the pantry. Our position is that Mr. Enyart did not make it into the pantry and did not take photographs inside the pantry.
While Scott's suit was pending, a book came out with previously unpublished photographs. This one was taken in the pantry, a few moments after Senator Kennedy was gunned down. Scott Enyart swears that he's the young man that's standing on the table with camera in hand, just as he told detectives on the night that he was interrogated.
I don't know who that person is for sure. We don't believe that that's Scott Enyart. I think it's just a coincidence that he, says that he was standing on a table and there's somebody standing on a table in the picture. We don't think that's him.
Scott continued his case against the LAPD. The city attorney's office hired a private courier to transport the negatives in question from the archives in Sacramento to Los Angeles. Soon after leaving the airport in a rented car, the courier had to pull over into a service station. His right rear tire was flat, apparently slashed by a knife. Sometime during the next 10 minutes, the briefcase containing the negatives was stolen.
I was with my attorneys when we learned this, and we were just absolutely shocked. I mean, we were, for some reason, we weren't surprised, but we were just truly shocked.
I couldn't believe it happened. But if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd say, see, there's further proof. Now we'll never know.
In the next few years, Scott's case was argued twice in court. At first, he was awarded damages. Then that decision was reversed. Finally, the case was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. But the ruling was bittersweet. If those photos exist and can shed light on how Robert Kennedy was shot, their value would be immeasurable.
The Enyart photos, if he captured the actual shooting, would be the only photographic record that we have. If those Enyart frames were on Kennedy as he was falling, it could be the whole case. It could tell us everything we want to know about what happened.
To this day, there has been no trace of Scott's missing photographs. For many, the true story about what happened that night remains an unsolved mystery. Next, a college student comes home from partying one Halloween night and vanishes. Pennsylvania State University.
I'm strong. I'm beautiful. I can do anything I want.
These are the words of Cindy Song, posted on her personal website 8 months before she would have graduated from Penn State University. A day that would have celebrated a lifelong dream. Cindy grew up in South Korea, but lived with her aunt and uncle in Virginia during high school. She was enjoying every minute of her newfound freedom in America. It was a Wednesday night, Halloween, the perfect excuse for students to party on a school night. Cindy and two of her girlfriends, Stacy Peck and Lisa Kim, showed up at their favorite haunt dressed in costumes, ready to drink and dance the night away.
Cindy wore a rabbit outfit. She had bunny ears and a tail that she had bought. It was a very cute outfit. It wasn't like a sexy outfit. It was a very cute outfit. That was her thing. She was very cute. She liked to look cute.
The girls partied until 2 a.m. Next stop, a friend's to play some video games, then home. It was now 4 a.m. on Thursday, November 1st. Stacy waved goodbye to her friend and drove off. She never saw Cindy enter her apartment and has not seen her since. Neither has anyone else.
We have no body, we have no crime scene, and we have no actual crime. So it's been very frustrating without any of those pieces of the puzzle, and because of that, it seems that she just vanished in thin air.
Cindy was known to have an independent streak, but she was also hardworking and responsible. She had good grades and held down 2 jobs. Her friends say that Cindy running off on a whim was simply out of the question.
I kept on calling her.
A search of Cindy's apartment showed no signs of a struggle, but there were some clues.
We found her eyelashes on the counter because she was wearing fake eyelashes. We knew that she must have at least come in and took those off. And her backpack was in her room as well, which she had been carrying earlier. So we knew that she at least came in and dropped that off.
Another clue. Cindy's cell phone was still in her bag. According to friends, she never went anywhere without it. And her budding costume was nowhere to be found.
Where she could have... I don't think she ran away because...
We know that whenever she left the apartment, she was wearing the clothes she had on that night. We also know that her purse or pocketbook or whatever she had with her that evening that contained her driver's license and credit cards were with her too, because we could not locate those in the apartment.
Did Cindy Song leave her apartment that same night? Detectives checked her phone records. No calls in or out. They checked her credit cards and email.
There was no activity on her credit cards, and there were no emails or any activity on her email accounts that gave us any clue on to her disappearance.
Early November. Police and volunteers searched the wooded area near Penn State. No trace of Cindy Song. So what did happen to Cindy Song that Halloween night? It seems Cindy left her apartment voluntarily, locking the door from the outside. Police wondered where she might go at 4 a.m. Friends said that it wasn't unusual for Cindy to run out to a nearby 24-hour market, no matter how late it was.
Upon her going there or coming back, something happened. Maybe somebody had grabbed her and abducted her.
A few days later, a chilling scene unfolds. A woman matching Cindy's description was seen crying and yelling for help.
You keep walking, I mean it, go! Keep walking, lady!
Later, an eyewitness came forward with a description of the abductor. A police artist created this composite drawing of a man with olive to light brown complexion and medium-length hair. He is not a suspect, but the police would like to talk to him. This is the last photo of Cindy Song, taken the night she disappeared. Cindy is 21 years old in this picture, stands just over 5 feet tall, and weighs 110 pounds. If you have any information, please log on to our website at Unsolved.com. Next, a classic case of love, murder, and betrayal, complete with a ghostly haunting. Big Moose Lake, New York. When darkness falls, the plaintive cry of loons summon haunting memories and more. One summer night, several young people working at Covewood Lodge were walking towards the staff residence. Rhonda Busolo went inside, unaware that someone or something might be waiting.
I walked into the staff lodge straight up the stairs with my hand out, reaching for the string, which is how to turn on the light. Just before I was ready to turn on the light, a feeling came over me that somebody was right there.
Karen?
Something definitely, or someone was there, and it just kind of took my breath away.
But the real show was outside. Rhonda's friends were seeing the presence that Rhonda felt.
All three of them had the same exact story. It lingered for just a few seconds and then moved away.
Did you see that?
All three of them saw the ghost. I didn't see anything myself, but I felt that somebody was right there. And it was just a strange feeling.
Someone or something is haunting Big Moose Lake. People here believe it's the ghost of the young and beautiful Grace Brown. In 1906, her brutal murder shocked the nation. Decades later, Hollywood turned the notorious case into a hit film, A Place in the Sun. Shelley Winters played Grace's character, a poor factory girl seduced and murdered by a faithless lover, Montgomery Clift. He was having a passionate affair with a beautiful young Elizabeth Taylor. Hollywood portrayed Grace as an unattractive nag. In truth, Grace Brown was a naive, lovely 19-year-old who worked at the Gillette skirt factory in Cortland, New York. It was there in 1905 that she met the charming and handsome Chester Gillette, the factory owner's nephew.
I think he was considered quite a catch by the people in town because he was popular and he was, athletic and he was handsome, and I'm sure a lot of women in Cortland were interested in him.
From the start, it was a scandalous romance.
Grace!
Chester convinced Grace to see him without a chaperone, which, in those days, put her reputation at risk.
I think she saw him as the ideal person, that he was everything that she wanted.
You look so beautiful tonight.
Thank you.
She was in love probably for the first time in her life, and she wanted to see this through no matter what.
For Chester, it was a secret affair. He never took Grace out in public. He never acknowledged their relationship. However, Chester was frequently seen with other young women, especially those from the town's wealthier families.
Her friends were warning her that he wasn't what he seemed to be, that he was something different. And I think that she had no experience with that type of person. And so she was seeing what she wanted to see rather than what her friends were telling her.
But Grace could not resist Chester. Eventually, she discovered she was pregnant. At the time, unwed mothers were outcasts. It was not uncommon for girls to commit suicide rather than face public shame. Grace begged Chester to marry her. Chester stalled as long as he could. Finally, he took Grace to the Adirondacks. She assumed it was a wedding trip. At Big Moose Lake, they rented a rowboat from a man named Robert Morrison.
Morrison expected them to come back around dinner time. And when they didn't come back, he thought that was somewhat suspicious.
Let's take it around this way a little bit.
Morrison organized the search party the next morning. A short distance away from the capsized boat, they found Grace's body.
Look down there.
Two days later, police found Chester Gillette in a nearby hotel. At first, he denied even knowing Grace Brown. And then he claimed that Grace had drowned herself because he didn't love her anymore. But at his trial, the jury was not buying that story. Chester Gillette was convicted of first-degree murder. On March 30th, 1908, he died in the electric chair. Had justice been served? Apparently not enough to satisfy the restless spirit of Grace Brown. Two other visitors also had a strange encounter not far from where Grace's body was found.
Oh my God.
I was awestruck. And not only was I certain that I was looking at a ghost, but I had a very strong feeling of sadness. She was very sad.
Over the years, there have been continual sightings of Grace Brown's ghost. Many wonder if her spirit has been trapped at Big Moose Lake since the day she was drowned by her faithless lover. Coming up, a 14-year-old girl is lured away from her home into a vampire fantasy game. They are dark, they are dangerous, they are sexy. From Transylvania to Hollywood, vampires attract followers and imitators. Today, vampire chat rooms and fantasy games attract thousands of visitors every day. Most of this is harmless, but for some, the fun may have a sinister side. This 14-year-old girl disappeared from her home 1 week before Christmas. Police think that Kira O'Connell was lured from her home by a man she met on the internet, on a website for vampires.
I believe she's being held against her will. I believe he's not letting her call. I don't know if she's even aware what's going on.
Authorities believe Kira is with this man, 22-year-old Brooker Malte. He's a senior airman in the U.S. Air Force, now listed as a deserter. Malte helped run a vampire chat room on the internet, the Black Rose nightclub.
Kira started playing the game and somehow met some people that were playing the game and started shooting off into a separate chat room, talking to this man one-on-one. And we know now from reading his emails to her that he figured out how to talk to her, how to get inside her mind, how to basically control it.
Generally speaking, we're looking at kids who are usually intelligent children and want to belong, want to be a part of something, want to participate. And so this comes along and reaches out to them and says, there are no rules. It's exciting, it's different. Mom and Dad won't like it very much. And once they get involved in it, sometimes it becomes more than just a game to these children.
When teen vampire fantasies reel out of control, the results can be a nightmare. This bloodbath made national headlines. 5 teenagers from the small town of Murray, Kentucky, arrested for a shocking double murder. One of the 5 was Heather Wendorf, whose parents were the victims. The vampire leader was 16-year-old Rod Farrell.
The city police detective said that he would cut his arm and let others suck his blood. They call it being embraced into the family.
Farrell and his group reportedly liked to play vampire at various places around town. One of Farrell's favorite hangouts was an abandoned building he called a vampire hotel.
He told the sheriff's department he thought he was immortal. He told the sheriffs that he didn't think whatever happened to him, he feels he's invincible. He honestly believes he's a vampire.
Heather Wendorf was cleared in the deaths of her parents. The other members of the group were all convicted of the murders. Rod Farrell received the death sentence, but he escaped death row. His sentence was commuted to life imprisonment because he was just 16 years old when he committed the crimes. Update. Kira O'Connell has been found. She and Brooker Malte were living in Marion, Illinois, posing as father and daughter, or sometimes brother and sister. Kira is now back with her family. Brooker Malte was convicted and sentenced to 4 years in military prison. Santa Monica, California. From as far back as he could remember, Bill O'Neill was told that his father died when he was a baby. But yet, he always felt somehow different from his older brothers and sisters.
I was the only one with hazel eyes, and everybody else had these bright blue eyes. My skin was more like an olive skin, where they were fairer skinned. Not that anything was ever said to me or anything like that that was different than anybody else, like my mom didn't treat me any different. Just a feeling inside, like something was lost.
Years later, Bill discovered that Hugh O'Neill, the man he thought was his father, had in fact died 2 years before he was born. When Bill confronted his mother, she told him everything. Hugh O'Neill was a patient at Chicago's VA hospital. There, Bill's mother met a friend of Hugh's named Jim Burke. a divorced father of 4.
So this must be the beautiful lady you've been keeping from me. This is
Hugh O'Neill died within a month of that meeting.
my wife, Lynn. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Before long, Jim Burke became a familiar presence in the O'Neill household. 2 years later, Bill was born. Bill later discovered that he also had a sister who had been put up for adoption. Jim Burke was her father, too. Bill eventually found his sister, Karen Althouse, and together they decided to search for their natural father, Jim Burke. Update. On the night of our broadcast, we were contacted by 2 of Jim Burke's 4 children from his previous marriage. Bill and Karen were sad to hear that their father had died just a few years earlier, but they were happy to know that 2 of his daughters were anxious to meet them.
Going to do this. I felt a connection, a definite connection, like when I reached out to hug them. I didn't feel like I was going to be as emotionally tied as I felt. Ditto.
For Sheila Ann and Eileen, the bond was just as strong.
As soon as I saw Bill, as soon as I saw his face, there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that he was a brother. No doubt.
This is what I've wondered all my life. Who are my parents? Do I have more family? Did I have brothers and sisters? Things like that. And it's exciting to finally see them, to touch them, to get to know them.
It was just an inside warm feeling that everything was now completed.
If you have any information on the cases presented tonight, log on to Unsolved.com.